Okay, this is session number 3 dealing with using microbiome prescription. The purpose is to allow people to ask questions of how to do things and get suggestions, and also do a more systematic overview of everything that is floating around on the system. And it's the third of the series. Basically, we are focusing on exploring deeper. Next week's sample is focusing on, you have 2 samples and you want to compare them to see if things have gotten better or worse or whatever has happened between 2 samples. So that's next week's one. But this week's we're going to focus on, you got suggestions or you got data uploaded and you want to dig deeper into it. So let's recap the main goal. The goal is to improve health issues for you. And number one thing is to avoid doing random experiments which has no evidence supporting that it will work or not. Often these experiments will be suggested by experienced medical people based on some sort of understanding or vaguity in their mind about how things connected together. And they have their fingers crossed that we're working. If it doesn't, they will suggest something else. So they will go through a bunch of literally random experiments to try finding something that works. Part of the goal is to stop reinventing the wheel. And mainly in the 25 years I have been observing the one particular medical conditions, reinventing the wheel or reinventing the thing to be researched keeps reoccurring as if everybody who is doing research are illiterate on prior literature. So part of the goal is to try to stop people wasting their time reinventing a wheel that's broken. And the other last thing is to always try keeping the latest research available. In fact, after session, I will go in and review what probably is about 100 new studies from last week, which has been selected by one of my AI bots to be worth reviewing and worth putting data into a database if it is a good match. So basically every week I review roughly 100 studies at the moment and extract any new or interesting information into the database. So it's basically keeps it current rather than stale. Session 3 is focusing on exploring your data. You have uploaded a sample, you have gotten suggestions, and we're going to look at from two things. We could look at what metadata is available from the suggestions. Then we're going to go on and look at different ways we can build suggestions. And the last one is we do a totally different road. We still use your data, but we don't use clinical studies. What we use is we use the Kyoto Encyclopedia of Gene and Genomics, which is marked as a research feature. It has produced some interesting results. It is probably a good fallback. And the reason it's a good fallback is that we are looking at the genes involved in the bacteria you have, what they produce, what they consume, what enzymes are there. The idea is that there's some collection of bacteria which are out of whack. By themselves, they're not a problem. The fact that you've got a whole bunch of them all producing the same particular chemical or consuming the same chemical, that knocks the system out of whack. It's not because of one, it's because of a whole stack of them all making a small contribution. And the KEGG data is an attempt to identify what's happening, which ones are involved, some cases actually be able to produce suggestions of things that could help. So at this point of time, I'll just go on before going over to the demo is keep it simple. The best path or for suggestion is largely, I've tried to automate what the best one is, and it's now simply called just give me suggestions. So it goes and does the best path. Whether or not it is the best path, who knows? It's the one that seems to work best. Second thing is don't go beyond the complexity that you can handle easily. Don't allow yourself to be overwhelmed with too much data. Having too much data is something I do have. But also remember that everything is study-based. Studies can be wrong or cooked. That's an ongoing problem. Often studies are not replicated, which is another problem. So it all ends up in what I call this big fuzzy universe of dealing with the microbiome. Everything is fuzzy. Fortunately, I have 20 years dealing with fuzzy logic, so I know algorithms to go about getting good predictions from fuzzy logic, which is what I've ended up doing with the site. Okay, so if there are no questions, speak up if there are. I'll go over and we'll go over and take a look at a sample. Oops, 1 second. Let me just get moved across. Okay, and okay, we should have a sample showing on screen. Let me just verify. Okay. 1 second. Let me just shift over to getting a sample on screen. Something went wrong. And okay, and okay. So what we have on screen is a sample. And as I said, the quick, easy suggestion is just give me suggestions. So what you do is just click here, and it will spin a while up at the top while it goes and executes 4 different algorithms to get suggestions. It gives you the cookbook suggestions, but we usually go to the technical one. Now, people from last week may have noticed there's a whole bunch of more choices here. The bacteria is now showing up as one feature, and now the other feature is over here. We have a library on PubMed. So what we could do is go in and let's take a look at some of these features. Let's try vitamins. Okay, so we have vitamins here. We have this button. If you click this button, it will go over and show you the reason this was suggested. And it does it by listing out which bacteria and how it changes it and provides the literature for what it is. And often you find the same literature used multiple times. That's simply because just one study reported a whole bunch of things. We do have an important icon. The book means that this particular thing is explicitly cited in the study where it has a child. It means that this isn't cited explicitly, but its parent is. In this case, Bifidobacterium is the one that is cited. But because we have sparse data, we go and make an inference that what affects the parent will affect the child. So that goes there. And as you can see, we have 81 entries there. And if you want to go over and check, we'll click bacteria. And now we list all the bacteria which you have reported. 185 in this particular case are deemed to be problematic. And that comes because I'm using all 4 methods of picking bacteria and tells you if it's high or low. So the result is you can go over and look at something like Villanellis, and you can go back here and see if there it is. It says it decreases it, which is what is in the studies. And over here we have it's high. Guess what? Now you know why it was selected. What a study indicated that this substance will reduce this particular bacteria, And that particular bacteria is high in terms of your actual sample. So it's a very straightforward, hey, you can go and verify things. And as you can see, sometimes you get a massive number of citations. And you can go down and, for example, take a look at magnesium. Why is magnesium not recommended? And there we find there are 16 citations there. And again, it indicates what it impacts either directly or what it impacts in terms of children. So we ended up having all the information there. So that is the number 1 and number 2 additions from last time around. Let's go over and take a look next at the retail probiotic suggestion. When you do individual samples, it will go and give the suggestions. I had not implemented it for consensus-led, and it's now done. And actually, let's make sure we'll open up in a new tab. And what we now have is we have all of the bacteria, and there are 306 different commercial retail probiotics mixture in the system in the moment, and it will keep growing as people point out that, hey, you don't have my probiotic in here, or you don't have this probiotic in there. So as somebody keep adding them in is a very fast process. But now what we end up having is recommendations: safe take, likely safe, etc. And you can see the logic here. Safe take means take count is above 0, avoid count is 0. In other words, there's no risk of harm. Why do we make it so extreme? Very simple. We don't know the relative impact of different probiotics on the microbiome. So being a safe take, it means that we know of absolutely no adverse results, and we know of positive good results. And now it says, okay, how many probiotics are in? There's 2 in there. And if you click through here, like for example, let's go to Mutaflora. Let's see if it works. Okay, it spells out what it does, and it spells here exactly what is in it in terms of the probiotic. And now you can go and follow that down the path line of all of these interlinked things, almost as interlinked as the microbiome is. So information is there, and you get the suggestions there, likely safe. And then at the bottom, you get possibly unsafe, which goes down, and you can see the counts as in, hey, is Russian roulette, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad for you? We really don't know. It's basically chancing. So let's return back to here. So we have covered bacteria, retail. Now we have the two PDF reports, which everybody has probably already gotten. One is for non-prescribing and one is for prescribing. What's the difference? For the prescribing, we include antibiotics on it. So let's see if I can go and do it. So we have that, and we save it, and we'll open it. And give me a second. I have to flip screen again. And so it's the same as before, and we do the same thing as before, which lists all of the bacteria involved. Same thing as on the website page. As you can see, this particular one has lots of things happening. Sometimes this type of thing, especially with lots of low, happens because you have one bacteria that absolutely dominates. And now we have the list of antibiotics, which or other prescription items which could be considered. And in this case, as you can see, oh, joy, it goes on forever and ever. Some cases, this is very short. Other cases, it's very long. If you're dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, I've annotated the antibiotics which have been used for chronic fatigue syndrome there. The main thing is things are colored. If it's antibiotic, it is colored red. Other things are black, and other things indicate what type of thing in. And then we have the regular items being suggested there. So it is basically a list which is subject interpretation. In general, I do not suggest taking it to a MD unless the list is short. When you get 5 pages of drugs being dropped on a MD's desk, they will usually roll their eyes and tune out. So generally, I will keep it there. I do have it in Spanish because some people in Spain are putting in the effort, and this here goes to the blog explaining it, so it's there for reference. Now, the third item here, which we haven't covered yet, is the food planner menu. If you click here, oops, I now have, oops, okay, give me a second. Oh, bad boy, I forgot to reshare my screen, so let's go back there. Okay, and now we have the screen, and what I had clicked was, let's get up there, is a food planner menu. And what that does is transfer over to another site, a parallel site, which nutrients you are needing or not needing. One of the reasons is that frequently the studies cites a particular nutrient, not a food, but a nutrient. Now, some people will just blank out saying, okay, that's nice, but how do I get it? I guess I have to look for a supplement with it. No, you don't have to look for a supplement with it. You could make it as part of your diet. And that is why this was added to allow you, especially for certain types of food, which are supplements, which are either very expensive, very difficult to find, is, hey, use a natural food source. It's probably a wiser choice. Cheaper, you can make it a regular part of your diet, and you explore your diet choices more. So we go over here, and there we have listed the substances. If you click on nutrients identified, like iron 37 here are the ones which are cited from the example. These are things which you should be taking: caffeine, oxalic acid, polydextrose, which you may or may not find easy. Other things, folic acid, anthocyanin. Those are the top ones. And what we do is we make the ones which are most significant at the top. And then if you go down to the very bottom, you see things that should be avoided there, and everything's spelled out. So now if you go in and say, okay, I want to supposed to avoid that. I have no idea what foods contains it. You just click through here, and voila, we have the foods containing it, and it's ranked order by the one that contains most of it, in which case that's grapefruit. Rosemary fresh has it, more grapefruit, and then we have insignificant baccarat wine. So it's not a particularly great, it's an easy one to avoid. We go back here, and we'll go and look at whatever that substance is. You don't need to know it. Okay, we have the foods that are highest in it is Chinese foxglove, Indian beans, soybean is high in it, different types of beans. So you could try eliminating some of those beans. So let's go back and take a and let's just sort of build something up. For example, let's start with vitamin A. Vitamin A we have a variety of foods there. If you are in certain parts of the world, you probably could go for moose. You could go for 8 ounces of moose every day. Click here. And there, oh, it says, okay, you can actually schedule your day, and you can say, okay, day 0, okay, day 1, I want to add moose in there. I want to have grilled beef liver. I'll have 5 ounces of that on day 2 for supper. And you just can go in and build up things that way. Okay, let's go that. And here's another 116. Here, what we have peanuts there, etc. So how about 4 ounces of pistachio for afternoon snack on day 0. Day 2, I'm going to add it, or there, I'm going to do peanuts on day 1. So you effectively start building up a menu. Now, if you go back here, you can now go and view the current menu plan. So it shows you what you have, and you can remove things as you want. But you also have plan nutrients, which goes and indicates what the net result is of everything, how much you're getting, a variety of things, total amount, daily amount, and this over here is daily recommended intake. So you are exceeding daily recommended intakes of these two. And let's take a look. Other things, you are not getting enough carbohydrates, which is not surprising considering your large meat diet. Lipids not there. So what you can do, and it takes time, is you can work up a menu plan using all the nutrients and what the suggested nutrients are, pro or con. I suspect this gives you much better results than what most dietitians would do. And you can actually go and document the combination. The sources of the information is a variety of nutritional databases from the world, which have been aggregated into one massive one, which is why you have things like moose sitting there, or you even get seal being there because it's in one of the databases. So we go back here and we have basically covered everything. We have the download, so you can just download this into Excel or whatever you want to make use of it. Okay, so now that's the first part, which is all of the metadata about the suggestion. So what we have is we have the literature we use to make the suggestions, which bacteria we were targeting, how do these translate to retail probiotic products, something to keep your health professional entertained, and if you want to go the extra mile, how you can actually start doing some diet planning, making use of the suggestions and doing it. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to actually empty the basket intentionally, because I'm going to go and custom build suggestions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I really believe in Jason's research, so I'm going to get suggestions. I could get the studies with it, but right now I don't worry about it because I know in the consensus view, I'll get the same study. So just get suggestions. And here we have the bacteria, which he does. We have additional information there about each bacteria. This information will also be available if you click on that and goes to the bacteria detail page. So we have done 1 there. But now what we're going to do is we are going to go over and take a look at medical conditions, and let's take a look through and pick a something like Crohn's disease. We have 28 matches of 113, so we could just go and say, okay, add Crohn's disease in there, and now we have 20 bacteria which are connected with Crohn's disease, which your sample matches that of studies on PubMed, which is awesome, good stuff. Now let's go back and go over to special studies. And what we have is we have special studies. So we could go and say, okay, we have per gut mortality, and we'll do just get suggestions. Comes back to the same thing, except we have 63 bacteria picked this time. So now we have 3 different suggestions. Each suggestion was targeted for a particular medical condition or a particular symptoms. We can now go and view the consensus here, and we have the consensus there, and we can proceed to take a look down. The list will probably be different than the other way because we are targeting the bacteria which are connected with a symptom or a condition, and we have all of that. We have all the things there. So you just keep going on from there. So in other words, you can go and apply each and every issue which concerns you, be it a special studies. Special studies are lab specific. In other words, these are based on other people who have submitted the same lab information and has marked a symptom which matches there. On occasion, I've seen the top one being 40%, and the next one being 15%, and it's a real good tight match for the symptom and the bacteria being together. So we have that, and then we have back one level. We have this, which is based on PubMed studies, so it's not lab specific, and you can go in and take a look at those and see what you can find. So we can now build up our selection of suggestions which are as explicit to your symptoms or your medical condition as you want, dealing with compound symptoms and compound conditions. So it's a way of building up suggestions which will work for everything. So you're not helping one condition and hurting another. So that's basically cover part 2 of the presentation. Is you can now go and pick up, you can go in, and there's more ways of picking things here. You can pick other people define standards, or you can do it from, let's go from pick from bacteria doing end products. Basically, this is very simple because what we do is we go through and we see we have a variety of end products. So, for example, from other labs, not necessarily from the bacteria, from other labs, you find something like, for example, you have H2, which often is something which somebody with soluble will have. So here you have the percentiles. Things with low percentiles, not concerned. However, Doria is at 90. This one is 90. All these are H2 producers. Another one, actually specific. And what we do is we now go and add those to the hand-picked bacteria, which is there. And now we can go and get the suggestions for those the same usual way. So now we have those, and we go back here, and we this count doesn't always work. I need to figure out why. So there we have the combination. So you can see 40. So you see, in this case, everything stayed in. There's nothing omitted. You may have one more thing added, mainly because, or one less thing added, but we have again the solid stuff. Again, clicking it, you see things to be avoid in terms of there. So that is covering how to build up. You've got lots of way of selecting the bacteria to change. You have an easy way to assemble everything into one combination, and you can now view that, and from that aggregated suggestions, you can just go off and do whatever you want with it. Okay, next we come over to KIG. KIG one, you usually need to make sure you set yourself to advanced, and KIG tends to be a bit of a research feature because there's a key difference between KIG results and other results. Other results are from people doing a clinical study, giving peanuts to, in some cases, pigs, and seeing how the microbiome change. So it is substance to microbiome, substance to change. When we're going to KIG, we're doing a different approach. We happen to have the sequencing of most of the bacteria in your gut done, or at least a sibling of it. So from that sequencing, we can obtain, using the Kyoto Encyclopedia of Genomics, all the enzymes that are being produced. Those enzymes produce compounds or consume compounds. They tend to also be prone to be epigenetic. Sometimes the enzymes won't be activated, other times they will. So there's a bit of fuzz factor there, but fuzz is something I live in a fuzzy world. So we go over here and we can go over and look at KIG enzymes percentages. And you now have listed what bacteria, what compounds are being produced by things. And as you can see, these are the top and bottom 5%. You can get all of them. Even with just taking top or bottom 5%, we get 70 entries. There are literally something like 3,000 different enzymes involved. So this is the attempt to shortlist it. So if you happen to know that there's a particular one which is involved, either from the organic acid one, you can go in here and you can just click here and it will show you which bacteria you have, which is causing it. In this particular one, we see it's a single bacteria. You are 100%, and it's really seeing one. So that would be one you may want to focus on. If you click view, you can go view and you can see we have exactly one bit of information. Consensus is walnuts will increase, which means the only thing you can do with our current literature base is make sure you don't have walnuts. Not sort of ideal. Okay, and let's close some windows because I think we're getting lost in having too much windows. Okay. Now I'm going to go back here, and we do have some of these on the basic. One is KIG suggested probiotics. And what it does, it from all of the species of probiotics we have in any of the products in our database. Some cases, some of these are in one particular product only, and that particular product tells us 100 different species in the product. So it's not necessarily the best choice, but it will go and based on the enzymes and compounds produced, and here's the details of how it's calculated. It says, okay, these are what you should take to provide what you're short of in terms of enzymes or compounds. E. coli is here, and actually, if you remember looking at the probiotic list, Mutaflora, which is the E. coli probiotic, was the top of the list. So what we have here is actually consensus between both approaches. One says you need E. coli because of studies. Now, this one's saying is you probably should consider E. coli because it produces the substances that you are missing, which contribute to your microbiome being out of whack. And then we go down, we see everything. Brevibacillus brevis, I think, is often Bacillus brevis, which I think is available retail. This one here is available retail. Substance is definitely available retail. Natural is a different variation of it. And you go down there. Generally, you won't find lactobacillus or bifidobacterium on the list. Occasionally, they will show up, but it's actually pretty rare. Here we have here a bifidum, but notice it's very low down, and we have Lactobacillus paracasius down here. So all of these is an alternative way of selecting probiotics, not using clinical studies, but using looking at the bacteria enzymes of all the bacteria in your gut. So it's a different approach. It's a semi-research thing, but it gives you a different way of trying to tackle the problem. The next one is supplements, which works a similar thing. Some of the compounds produced are available as supplements. So let's see if we have anything showing up there. And there we do. So here we have your percentile ranking of these things which are in the KEGG database. The Z-score indicated statistical significance. Generally, things which are 2 or more are things which are of concern. For example, number 3 here is glycerin is sitting there. And now what you may want to do, or what I usually do, is hop over here to view consensus and see if we have agreement between suggestions from one path and suggestions from another path. And here another path says, not so sure about that. It seems to have adverse effect. Generally, if there's disagreement, my usual attitude is be safe, don't do it. Unless, of course, there are other reasons to do it. Sorry for the hopping around. Okay, there. Next one on the list is serine. Let's see if that is sitting on the other list. Yep, we don't have that, so that it becomes your. Let's try arzodine. That's also a negative. So sometimes you find there's agreement, sometimes you find there's not agreement. Let's try something like asparic. Let's see. I think that's on the Evercombo. We have aspirate there, which is chemically different. That's one the other thing. Let's do other things like lysine, another example. No match. Let's try glutamine. And it's there as a positive. So when you have a double hit, both from the KEGG and from the clinical studies, generally that is a very keyword, safe substance to take. And this simply gives you the short list of things to do. Okay, and if you have an oats test, then we have the ability for you to mark the results of the oats, and that's the same thing. Here, the thing is, most of the chemicals on the oat test are chemicals cited in the KEGG database, which are then connected to bacteria so that which plant bacteria, and from those bacteria, we find out things which are probiotics for those bacteria for the chemical in the KK. So it's a cascading there. But this whole purpose is to be able to take organic test results and be able to get probiotics suggested from it. So, and okay, I think at this point of time, do we have any questions? What we do have, I think I covered last time, we have the percentage percentile charts. Ideally, all of these would be about the same. We have the health analysis, which attempts to match up by PubMed conditions to what your ranking is. In this case, we have 95. And it's done by looking at the reported prevalence in people and where the percentile is. This particular person I know happens to have Crohn's disease, had GERD earlier in their life. So it is a definite matchup. Allergies, person happens to have allergies, and it's a 30% match. So 30% means that you want 70th percentile. This is borderline, which is why it's included. 47% no acne, arterioporosis, no sign of that left. COVID-19, 50% people have it, but this is sort of for active COVID, so that probably should be a smaller percentage. And this person has never had COVID. They have had the COVID vaccine, which could impact it. Then we have bacteria which are high, and any information we have with, as always, where are we getting the information from? I don't like saying, oh, you should take this because it's healthy, or it's not healthy, or this is a bad bacteria. I like to be able to document everything because I'm not a professional expert. What I do know is that evidence trails are important to justify doing things. Dr. Harlick's suggestions. Key thing about Dr. Harlick's recommendation, which I just did in a blog post, is he derived those using uBiome data for his patients. uBiome is not out of business. uBiome used 16S numbers. When I went and did the shotgun foreign data view on the same samples, but the number of things out of range went up significantly. And that is because different labs get different results. It's all part of what I call this taxonomy nightmare before Christmas, which is, well, it indicated when I wrote it, but basically it indicates that this should be interpreted only with 16S results. You could use it, but it's not a good match. Let's go flip back. We have the microbiome tree. We have pie charts and chrono charts, which are basically pretty charts, which there we have the ability to enter symptoms. We have probable symptoms. Let's go down to here, somewhere in here. I think I no. This person has not entered symptoms in, so that's a bit of a problem. Special studies, which is the antibiotic list, drug list. This is not the same as in the PDF. It uses a slightly different algorithm, and they're same thing here, slightly different algorithm. And the algorithm is based directly on the microbiome, not on sets of suggestions. So you get different results. Don't be concerned about it. As always, when there's disagreement, go with what you have agreement on. Don't get involved in the fights between suggestions. And then other things there, which are non-sample one. Hand picking there, we covered there. I think we covered everything on that page. Yep, we have. Special studies are using data from the same lab. This is if you are wanting to hand pick your bacteria, as in, okay, I want streptococcus and something else, it allows you to hand pick which bacteria it is, but you do have to unfortunately enter the taxon numbers, which are available by just doing lookup. And there we have the information about how many studies we have, etc. So you can see, for example, which studies you have the best one, common bacteria. Okay, remember we have 3 different ways of getting names. Common bacteria is where all 3 reports the same bacteria, which means that these are the most likely ones. And here we have the counts there. So that gives you the most likely ones there. Particularly useful if you're using something like foreign and you're trying to do it and we don't have enough foreign samples to be able to do anything with it. So you fall back to something else. Okay, and then we have the diversity there. I put the diversity in because people kept asking for it. They are difficult to interpret easily. I usually say, okay, go over and look at the general introduction, which is a page describing it, make your own call. When we compare samples, these do become interesting and benefit comparing one sample to the next. By themselves, they tend not to be. We have more tuning there. Down the bottom, we have over and underproduction. We have overrepresentation of compounds which are being produced at a low rate, and we have underrepresentation of compounds which are being doing at a high rate. Z-score and the significance everywhere. What we know is that the bacteria in your body, in terms of what it produces and what it consumes, is out of whack. Not a particular bacteria, but the whole holistic combination of bacteria is out of whack with statistical significance. So there, and advanced suggestions is the close to the original one, which you can go in and you can be absolutely explicit with how you're doing it. You can select what level of bacteria do you want to work with, how you want to filter it, and do you want to be strict only when directly cited, or are you willing to take parents or children, etc. It basically gives you ability to ultra fine tune how suggestions are. Again, I don't know the magic answer. What I do for the just give me a suggestion is what seems to be the best solution, so people don't have to worry about figuring out all of this stuff. Okay, and that's basically it. Classifications here are from when I first started to try classifying it. I could actually probably double or triple classifications there because things get far more complicated than one expected, but they are reasonably good introductions. And if something is clearly misplaced, tell me and I will correct it. Okay, at this point in time, I think I will say it's time for any additional questions people have or suggestions or whatever. If not, then we'll close off the session.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So I used to use Thrive Labs, and I usually process them through the BiomeSite website, or BiomeSite Lab. And I realized that I sometimes get pretty much the opposite suggestions from those two labs. So basically, what to do? What to do? If it's originally from Thrive, which one is more likely to be correct, if it's possible to say?
Okay, I make no judgment as to which one is likely to be correct. Both of them are correct given how they're being done. But actually, let's flip over and give me a quick second. Okay, and you may want to, as a start point, comparing microbiome for 3 different providers. Here is somebody was kind to me, or unkind, because it took me almost a week to go through all the data, burns a lot of time, is They did a sample, went through ombre or fry. They also did a sample with foreign, with the same physical sample was being used. In other words, as close as possible, you have all three. So ombre and bottom use the same digital data. So that's when you transfer your FASTQ file, it goes there, and what happens is it uses different software. So I went through and compared the results. First of all, a quick recap on the difference between there. And then my nightmare, which one is correct? Well, you got 97 different samples, and it's a problematic, but now I give the results. As you can see, guess what? We have one saying you are high, and one saying you are low, and one saying you're in the middle. Over time, you have agreement between the three. Thrive and bottom side use 16S, which is a bit of it is guesstimation. Firm uses a different type of guesstimation, but uses a lot, I mean a lot more data to make the guesses. So the result is generally gives better result. These two will be all over the place in terms of numbers. Sometimes we have consensus, sometimes we don't. Because of that, I went through and looked at their suggestions from the site. Basically, bottom site gives good results, as in they give suggestions which are in general agreement with the literature for the data they deem, according to the data they have. Ombre or 5 give suggestions, but the literature they cite don't match the suggestions, which is why I give them a failing grade. Foreign doesn't really give suggestions. It gives 3 or 4 things, very vague. And half of them are good suggestions, half of them are bad, which sounds like they're just flipping a coin and not using their bacteria at all. Where it comes in is the Uber consensus, which is actually, let's go over and take a look at the Uber consensus. Let's go back here. And what you find there is you get over here to multiple samples. Multiple samples. Okay, let's go. I'll go through the whole process. So we have done that one, which is there. And we're now going to go to the matching one. Same sample. Just give me suggestions. And now we go back to multiple samples. And now we see we have, oops, oh, that should be, okay, give me a second. I was a bad boy. I wanted to, okay, that's bio site. I wanted Thrive, not foreign. Okay. I get Thai tongue of the TH. Okay, multiple samples. Now we have biome site and Thrive. Same samples. And now we do the Uber consensus. So I take both sets of suggestions and bind them together. And what we find here, let's get rid of amino acids there, is we have from each one, we did 4 sets of suggestions. We combined them all together. And guess what? All suggestions from both labs are in agreement for these things. So those 2 things becomes the top of your list for things you do. Then you get 5, 0, and 3, 2, which indicate there's no contradictory information there. Values are low. Remember, we usually want to keep at the highest value divided by 2, and in which case we have everything there. The 2 top ones, which are complete agreement, being good. Let's go over to flavonoids. And we have the same thing happening with flavonoids. We have agreement. We do have, when we go down into cranberry, we have 1 disagreement, 7 in favor. Generally, that's over half the level, so a decline one. Quercetin resveratrol combination is also good. So that is how you go about dealing with the difference of bacteria and different suggestions. It's simple. You just combine them all and look for what everybody agrees about. Keeps your risk down. And same thing for negative priority, things you should avoid. And we have everybody saying there, let's say, only one substance does everybody say you should avoid, which is fistulin. Again, half the max value is where you want to work. And then we have other things which 5 for. So some of these may have only occurred for one of the labs. There, that one. Interesting. I don't remember adding it, but I'll check cranberry there. So that's how you resolve the problem of two different sets of suggestions. You could combine them and see what everybody agrees about. Remember, I'm an odds person. It's the best odds possible. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. I did not know about this feature, so it's pretty clear. Thank you.
Okay, good. So and you can also do that between two different labs, as in your last lab and your current lab, to see what is in common or what you keep on doing or not doing. So it can be used multiple different ways. And although it is multiple samples this next week, well, this is technically one sample being handled in multiple ways. So as you did last week, you are 1 week ahead for your questions. And then we have other features like, let's take a look. We have biome site for one. Let's do a look at 5 for the other one. And here we have comparison library quality is basically the same. And you can look at the percentage over or under and see there, for example, pathogen, one says 37, one says 38. Results are similar. Outside of JSON range, outside of other labs, all of these can, for pharma and criteria, we have the same numbers. There we have, for lab ranges, we do have a big difference there. We have box plot, big difference. We have count of multi, huge difference. But for a large number of items, we get similar types of numbers coming down. So the labs are, in general, similar data, which is why that when we do consensus, we get pretty consistent suggestions being agreed to by both of them, which is nice. It means that the fuzzy logic algorithms are working. Any other questions, or else I'll just keep blabbering on. Being an ex-teacher, I tend to talk.
For me, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, then with that, I'll close off the session and see some of you next week, probably, when I look at multiple samples. And the purpose is to, when you have one sample and another sample and another sample, is how do you compare the result to see if you're improving or not improving, and try to understand what's happening over time as you try treating your microbiome. Okay, have a good weekend, one and all.